and thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for clicking play. If it is your first time here, hi, my name's Liz. Do watch this video until the end so you can decide if you would like to join my community or not. I call it a community of thinkers. I love to talk about philosophical topics that provoke thought. I also refer to politics a lot, as well as history, because I believe as human beings we have a lot to learn from the past in order for us to improve our present and future. I also do vlogs as well as travel vlogs. This is my Instagram if you'd like to check out more pictures and videos of travel, and I actually absolutely love doing this. Again, welcome to my channel. If there's anything you end up liking, be sure to let me know. Leave me a like. We can also interact both on this comment section and on my Instagram DMs. I do reply. Thank you so much for being here. I do not take you for granted, and I want to give a special shout out to my over 300 subscribers. I love you guys so much, and thank you again. Thank you so much for being here. But on this video, I wanted to keep it 100. I do not shy from controversial topics. I do not I don't have a fragile ego where I cannot handle certain things being said out in the open. This is why I call this place a community of thinkers. So today I'm going to talk about one of the major differences between Austrian culture and Kenyan culture. I am a Kenyan living in Austria. I actually do go back home a lot. By home, I mean Kenya. I travel in between the two countries, but I am mostly based here now in Austria because I happened to fall in love with an Austrian man, and we ended up getting married and relocating to his country. He was at home in my country, Kenya. So I'm going to talk about one of the major differences that I noticed right from jump when I got here. But before I even say that, let me just put out a disclaimer. There is no right or wrong culture. I am not here to play a role that tells people that my culture is better than theirs, or a role. No, that's not my intention. I know that in every culture there are good things and bad things, and I know that as Kenyans we can learn from Austrians, same way Austrians can learn from us. Only an arrogant person would think that they have nothing to learn, that they have learned everything and that they are perfect and have nothing to learn. And on this community, we hope not to attract arrogant people. We hope to attract more humility than arrogance, right? So let me just put that disclaimer out there. I'm not here to tell you that my culture is better than yours, and neither am I here to talk down on anybody. I don't intend on being condescending or instigating any type of divide between people. Culture is culture. Some cultures have good things that we can emulate and bad things that we don't need to emulate. Other cultures have, well, the same good and bad things. So let's get right into it. In Austria, if you approach a bunch of people, a group of people, whatever place it may be, maybe it's a new job, maybe it's a new school, maybe it's the neighborhood watch, maybe you're in some kind of community committee, you're a member there, maybe it's church, maybe it's family members, maybe you're married, like I am married to an Austrian, so you get to interact with the locals, his friends, his family, his workmates. In Austria, when you approach people and you come in very modest, taking a back seat, awkward, just maintaining a very quiet demeanor, very, you're holding back, and maybe you're not even looking people in the eye, you're just very reserved in your approach, they interpret that as weakness.
What?
Yes, you heard me right. I have seen it time and time again, especially at work. If you go in there, not very friendly, you're just sitting on your high horse, you are shaking hands very firmly, you're looking people straight in the eye, you know what brought you there, you're tough approach, they respect you. Without sugarcoating too much, Austrians respect the snob more than the friendly one. In Kenya, it's the opposite. In Kenya, if you approach people at a new job where you're throwing your weight around, you come in with your chest forward, you are like giving, backing orders, telling people, I know I'm new here, but I'm not new to the job overall. I've done this before. I know what Kenyans will humble you. Atupendi kierere. This I'm ruthless, I'm confident, I know what I want, I know why I'm here, move out of my way approach is hardly respected in Kenya. If you approach Kenyans like that, now that is what they interpret as weakness. They see you as fresh prey. Umejileta mwenyewe. When you come and greet Kenyans with that kind of an attitude, your chest is sticking out, your chin is always high, you're pointing out things, we interpret that as arrogance. If you approach Kenyans in the modest, humble, hey, saseni, mambo, simnifunze hapa form ni gani, like you're just going to people, asking them to teach you what that job is, you're very, willing to like do stuff for people, si unitume, hakuna haja uende na niko hapa, na mi upitia hapo nikienda home, like, just send me if they need to, you don't mind playing even the role of a messenger, you're just like really calm. Kenyans will respect you. Over time in Austria, I've come to see that it is the exact opposite in Austria. That's how they will embrace you. They will see you as strong. Do you get the difference? Kenyans see that chest forward as weakness and arrogance, and they're going to humble you. They see you as garagaria, you're weak. We will deal with you. But they see that humility of like, I'm here to serve and eventually maybe I can learn and maybe I can then become a leader, but first I have to be a servant. Kenyans see that as strength and they will embrace you because of that. Austrians, it's the opposite. I notice it every single place where I go and do something with Austrians. When I go out there with my chest sticking out and I'm not there to be friends with anybody. I mean, I'm trying to be a good person, but I'm not necessarily nice. I can be a bitch. Austrians sort of like start respecting you, but when you go to them with like hey, ich bin die Elisabeth, sie steppert. That's the way they think. So the other day I watched a video, a discussion panel on YouTube. And I went to the comment section and I contributed. I just commented, and then there was a discussion thread under my comment. And one guy said that it's actually because I was talking about Austria, and a different guy was talking about Germany, and they said Germans are also like that. He's from like Namibia or somewhere, and he said Germans interpret kindness for weakness a whole lot, many times. And of course there are exceptions. Again, we are not saying that there's one right culture and one wrong culture. They're just different. And of course there are exceptions. Not everybody acts the same. Even in Kenya there are exceptions, right? But now I'm talking about generally, and exceptions don't make the general rule. We are talking about our first-hand observations, right? So this one guy was also arguing that Germans are like that. They interpret kindness for weakness, and when you show your teeth and you open your eyes a little wider, that's when the respect comes in. So people were confused. Africans were confused because Africans were like, with us, it's the opposite, right? And so one guy came into that conversation and he said, it's actually a white culture thing. It's a Western culture thing. It's not only about countries. It is about the Western world, the white folk and their culture, and black people all over the world. Not only black people in Kenya, but even African Americans, even people in the Caribbean islands, where we don't like somebody who comes to our face like that. We will ask them to respect us. We don't like somebody coming to shout in our face. We don't like somebody coming with their chest sticking out. We interpret that as arrogance. And white people will then see you as tough and therefore give you respect for that. Because the person said, once you show that nice approach to white folk. For them, they are convinced it's a white people thing. It's not an Austrian or German thing, it's a white people thing. And he was arguing that once you show them that you can be kind and welcoming, they normally see it as an invitation to conquer you, and that's how they colonized most of the world, because people welcomed them and they interpreted that as stupid people. You people are stupid, you're just letting us in, letting us sit on your lands. Okay, we're gonna take over. What do you expect? I could not just take his comment at face value because I'm someone who likes to do research on my own. So I went online and I started researching, and I found this. The interpretation of kindness as weakness by colonizers is a perspective rooted in a colonial mentality that valued ruthlessness and power over empathy and cooperation. The viewpoint, which persists in some form today, is often seen as a colonial legacy that rewards predatory behaviors and disregards compassion as a sign of strength. I remember at my last job, there was a guy who I worked with, and one time he had an argument with a certain lady. They were both Austrians, and then I told him, but you know you are wrong, because what she said, she can actually prove it, and I'm actually a witness to it. You're actually wrong. And he told me, yes, I know I'm wrong, but I'm also not stupid. I am not going to admit that I'm wrong, because in this case, it is something that will change the course of the job. Like, there was a promotion at hand, and he was willing to lie. He was willing to act in a predatory way and willing to ask me not to be a witness, because for him, what mattered is that one of them gets promoted and that person is him. And I was like, okay, I've heard about this before. I've heard about the ruthlessness in the West, and I've always credited it to like capitalism, because I just told him, actually, you know what she's saying is true. She is right. So at the end of the day, you just have to let go of the issue. And he was like, I am not stupid. So to him, it's that mentality of like him admitting he's wrong and going down to her level and apologizing and actually just stepping back is a sign of stupidity. Me as an African, I was just like really shocked, like that is actually interpreted as stupidity. It's not interpreted as maybe just doing the right thing. And I thought, wow, this capitalism really does go deep, because it dictates that you become very ruthless in what you're doing. But then I understand that it's actually a Western thing and it is deep rooted. As I did my research, I read up more on it, and this is what I also found out. Quote, the colonial mindset. I had a look at the historical context of it, and it involves prioritizing domination. The colonial enterprise was fundamentally about acquiring resources and asserting control, which incentivized actions that displayed dominance rather than collaborative kindness, or if I may add, cooperation. There are also a few interesting articles out there on the same, such as this one by a lady named Laurel Sibanda, which you can read on the medium.com. There are also many other articles on the same just out there. If you're into research, you can just go out there and engage with different think tanks.
It was easy to colonize Africa because of our value systems. We were welcoming to visitors. Kindness was also an important virtue in African society. Unfortunately, the values that were held in high regard in African society were the same values that made Europeans view us as naive and inferior. In short, our kindness was taken for weakness. The same thing happened to the Aztecs in South America. After Christopher Columbus's first voyage, he described the natives as so naive, so free with their possessions. When you ask for something, they never say no. To the contrary, they offer to share with anyone. To European imperialists, being kind to one another, let alone strangers, was not a common occurrence. You see, by 1601, the Dutch had already established the first stock exchange in history. This also means that capitalism began to take shape in European society. In essence, it was every person for themselves, may the best businessman win. So when they set foot in Africa and saw people living in harmonious communal societies, We became targets, easy targets, and that's how precious minerals and other resources were siphoned out of Africa to build Europe.
And I was thinking about it for a minute, like, maybe this thing goes back to our history as human beings. Maybe it did not start now, because I think I can play you somebody who also said it, a different person who said it in one of his videos.
And there's never a spirit of cooperation. I've learned in previous work experiences that your cooperation will be misconstrued as weakness and as an opportunity to come up on you. And so with these people, you have to definitely be careful about cooperating with their agendas, because what ends up happening is they take that as an invitation to dominate you.
And so that was the argument that, for me, I was saying it's only a cultural difference between Austrian people and Kenyan people. And then somebody was correcting me, saying that actually it's a white people's thing. I don't know. Maybe I can learn it. Also, I'm open to learning. But one thing I know for sure is that every place I went to, and I can even cite examples. There was a place in Austria, I've taken up different jobs. I am married, but sometimes I do take up a few hours of work, because if you're a foreigner, you cannot just sit at home. If you do that, you're going to have a lot of mental problems. You have to be part of the community. You cannot just say, oh, but my husband provides for me, so I don't need to go out there and work. Please find even a part-time job. Or if your husband is blessed, he has a little bit more than most, ask him to open you something, a small business for yourself. Or if there's a place where you enjoy working, like you don't mind maybe being a receptionist, a cashier at the local supermarket, at your local flower shop, a waiter, a waitress, do it. Because that keeps your mind in a busy space, and also you have some extra money, and it hastens your paperwork. That is one thing I noticed about being an immigrant. When the government sees that you're paying taxes, your paperwork goes faster, like your visas, your residency. It really helped me a lot, like not sitting at home and doing nothing. It helped me, and also it helps you make friends and practice the language. Put yourself out there. So anyways, at one time I worked at a restaurant. I've taken up a few jobs here and there. I worked, and let me just say this from the get-go, it helped with the German language, because you get to talk to the locals firsthand, and it helps with your confidence. You become more and more confident in a foreign country. You're not isolated. Please, immigrants, foreigners, refugees, whatever you may be, do not isolate yourself. Put yourself out there. Anyways, that's a different video. So, and I've talked about it in one of my past videos. You can go and check them out. So this one time, I was in a 4-star hotel right here in the Alpine region. And I used to serve in the breakfast buffet. So like we were hosting. We would have like VIP guests coming from Switzerland, and we would be told some people were coming from the Middle East, like Arab families that are coming out here because they like to ski, they like the mountain experience just in the Alpine region. And so we would be told like how we would work as a team. And I really enjoyed it actually. I left just because I didn't have to be there, and some people were starting to tick me off. And I remember when I first went there, I went in like a Kenyan, like our Kenyan way of being welcoming, warm, inviting, being very humble. You know, you don't mind people sending you, get me this, get me that. You're just like on the floor, because that's how Kenyans will then respect you. And I noticed that a lot of white folks who I was working with, the Arab people who I worked with, because there was a few brown people there, they really took that as like I'm a respectful young lady, because they were older, and they would really like appreciate that. But the white people specifically, I noticed they took it as tepad. Now I keep on saying tepad. If you're not a German speaker, you might not understand what that is. In Swahili, tepad ni fala. You know, like fala is like a dimwit in English, dimwit. So they thought like, you know, we can just back orders at her. When I finally turned around and I was like, excuse me, I was just being nice, okay? Like, shut the F up. When I turned around and told somebody to shut the F up in the middle of a shift, all of a sudden, I started getting respect from the white people. It's like a cultural difference that blew my mind. It's like they don't respect you when you're like completely cooperating, you're completely like nice and humble and modest, and you know, you don't mind being sent around. No. They see that as weakness. I saw it in that restaurant. One day I just stood in the middle of the shift. I didn't care if we had a prince for a guest. I didn't care if whoever was, because there used to be a lot of VIP people there. I didn't care. I was like, shut the F up. And I didn't say F, I used the actual word. I was like, shut the F up, to one of the people who wasn't even a manager but thought that because I'm being very cooperative, it means that they can just back orders at me. And I was like, do it yourself. Are you effing serious right now? Like, once I started like having that attitude of like, I know why I'm here to make my money, get the hell out of my way, do not be in my face like that. All of a sudden it was like, Morgan Elizabeth, good day Morgan. People who never used to say hi to me. But it was specifically the white folk, not the Arabs. There were a few Arabs there who we worked with. They were especially in the kitchens. They used to make very nice. The chef was an Arab. It was a nice foster, and some of the people who helped the chef were also Arabs. And they really, I think also in their culture, they really respect that modesty, that humility. You know, like I would go to the kitchen and be like, Assalamu alaikum, because I'm a Kenyan, and you know, in Kenya we have a lot of Muslims, and they would be like, hey, Assalamu alaikum, pretty girl, come here. Like, she's just, like, they would tell one another, she's very modest, and you know, I would just come with that Kenyanness, so to speak, and be like, shukran. You know, the Swahili language is a bit similar to the Arab language. Actually, the Swahili language is a mixture of Bantu languages and the Arab language. So like, for instance, we say shukrani, they say shukran. We say uso, they say uso. We say, yeah, we share a lot of, we say yani. I was just about to say yani, and they also say yani. There are a lot of things that we share, words that we share. We say maksudi, like there are many words that we share. So with the Arab language, so I would be like in the kitchen telling them shukran, and they'll be like, she's so grateful, she always says thank you. Like for them, they really appreciated it. And then I noticed like, no, once you do that with the white folk, especially the ones who worked there, they saw you as dumb. They saw you like somebody they can just walk all over. I remember telling one of them, are you not saying thanks? Because like if you do something for them, they expect you to do it like they're matching, and that's the way they treat one another. They take it, they match away. They like in this cold European fashion of like strictness, sternness, getting things done, ruthlessness. They really respect that. And so once I became ruthless myself, and it was like, if you don't say hi to me, I don't say hi to you. And I was carrying myself with a bit of arrogance, which felt so unnatural to me. They started giving me respect. Isn't that so weird? Maybe for the rest of the world it's not weird, but for like Kenyans or Africans at large, it is so weird because that's not in our culture. In our culture, if you come there and you're not saying hi to people, you're coming in the morning just like on your high horse, you're not saying hi, you're very ruthless. If you don't do your job, you get fired. Hey, we will not respect you. Kenyans don't respect that. So again, there's no right way or wrong way, because at the end of the day, ruthlessness is needed for things to run well. I like to keep it real, and I try to be as neutral as possible in my takes on such subjects. And if you allow me to keep it real even right now, look at how they've built their countries. Their countries are running very smoothly, at least economically. They're doing very well financially, and for the most part, you can credit it to that coldness, that approach of like being very ruthless and strict, and just recognizing other people that are willing to do anything to get ahead. It comes with its pros as well. I mean, yes, there are many cons, but if you're going to be 100% honest here, one of the reasons that, again, if you go back to history, one of the reasons that we Africans were easily colonized is because we trust too easily, and we are actually called warm and hospitable for a reason. So if you're going to just not, reason this out with too much emotion, if we just keep it logical and rational, you can see how things actually, end up. It's a question of teleological ethics versus deontological ethics. I mean, I like to use situational ethics, i.e. it depends on the situation, but sometimes the end just indeed justifies the means, right? So again, if we keep it 100 here, there are instances where the means justify the ends and the ends justifies the means. Anyways, back to the video. So maybe we can find a middle ground, and at the end of the day, kindness is also needed because we are not robots, we are humans. So that warmth of Africans is needed, and that cold European approach is also needed sometimes. So I'm not here to bash any one culture. I'm just here to point out that that is a difference I have noticed. And like I said, somebody said it's not an Austrian or German thing, it's a white people thing. I noticed it with white people. I don't know if it was only coincidentally at that restaurant, it was white people who acted that way, but I've seen it time and time again. Even in places where I have to sit at a reception or at a counter, when they approach you, maybe you're welcoming guests and you have to tell them, you have to book, make appointments for them. When they approach you and you're extra nice, extra friendly, they always try to sit on your head, figuratively speaking. And it's always just the white folk. Like, I've been in places where all types of races coming in to get service, and I'm maybe at the reception or at the counter. And as you explain to a black person like me, like myself, and you talk to them, you can see that the more humble you are, the more they appreciate that. Same to Arabs. Like, the more you calm down and the more you're like, you know, really modest in your approach, the more you have them nodding, you know, slightly tilting their head and nodding, because that feelings of empathy are coming into the conversation a lot, and you can feel that they're giving you more and more respect. But then with the white folk, I even told my husband, we were talking about this yesterday, and he was laughing because he has seen it. I gave him examples and he was like, I never really thought about it. With white folk, when they approach me, whether it was at a reception where I worked, a counter, the more I was self-assured, the more I looked them in the eye, the more I was willing to say no to them, the nicer they became. And it always confused me. Like, if you do it the same way you would do it to a black or brown person, and you just like make yourself very awkwardly small, they want to sit on your head. It's an invitation to now conquer you. The bigger and bigger and bigger they become, the more they want to complain now, the more they want to put you in your place. But if you don't allow that, if you block it from the beginning, it will be fine. Like, just, if you want to be fine with them, just be a bitch, I guess. If you want to get along well with them, be ruthless, like the way they can be ruthless. And that's not to say that, you know, they're horrible people who you cannot logically have. No, some of them are very good people, but the cultural fiber, the way they approach things, again, if you're understanding what I mean in this video, maybe you can help me explain it better. The general cultural fiber is that they respect ruthlessness. You see it, that they respect the person who is a no-nonsense, a strict one, and we don't. We respect humility, niceness, respect. If you go to Kenya with your chest sticking out, you'll come back to the West crying. We will humble you a good one. If you come to us with your chest, anyways, thank you so much for watching. If there's anything you learned, anything you liked, anything that entertained you, be sure to leave me a like. If you disagree, feel free to let me know. I am always willing to accept correction or criticism as long as it's constructive and we can sharpen one another as people. Again, I'm looking to create a little community for us here, what I am calling a community of thinkers. If you haven't yet subscribed, be sure to do so. My name is Elizabeth Irungu, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.